Hey friends, we've got another amazing episode of Serving the Community podcast coming your way. Bringing on Nick Baker with IMG Financial Group. He was introduced to me by a great friend, Aaron Hunt, with Hunt Realty in Pearland through Business Network International, or BNI. So excited to have Nick on today. He is an A&M graduate. He was in the Corps of Cadets Fightin Texas Aggie Band, B Company, and also in the General O.R. Simpson Corps Scholastic Honor Society. He spends his free time as a member and lector at the All Saints Catholic Church, and he's also an avid Aggies sports fan and fitness enthusiast. Today, we're going to be focused on the work that he's doing in creating a podcast for the Houston A&M Club and capturing stories of these amazing alumni, as well as the PEP, or Prison Entrepreneurship Program, which Nick is a part of. So you don't want to miss this episode. I hope you guys will join us and enjoy this podcast. Hey y'all, Trisha Stetzel here, and I serve those who are serving others. So welcome to this week's episode of Serving the Community podcast. I created this podcast to highlight people and organizations in our own communities who are serving others and giving back to make our communities, our country, and sometimes even the world a kinder place to live. And serving doesn't just make your heart feel good. You've probably heard that some studies have shown that there are mental and physical health benefits to serving, like reducing depression, lowering blood pressure, and even lengthening your lifespan. Putting other people's needs before yours also strengthens your relationships. It connects you with the ones you are serving. And if that someone is someone you know, it creates a stronger bond with them. Serving also enriches other people's lives. And perhaps the best benefit of serving is the chance that person paying it forward. If you help someone, they're more likely to do something nice for someone else that day. Your one act of kindness could have a major domino effect. It's like the pebble on the pond, creating that ripple effect. Now, it's time to talk to our amazing giver this week. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Serving the Community. I'm super excited about my guest today. I actually met him through BNI, Business Network International. You guys know that's a big organization that I've been a part of for many years. And Aaron Hunt is a friend of mine who invited me to come to this chapter. Nick Baker is actually the president of the Pearland BNI chapter that I went to visit, and I couldn't help but ask him to be on the show. Nick Baker, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And shout out to Aaron Hunt. What a great guy, and what a privilege it is to be president of such a great group of people like that. Thanks for coming to visit us, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I met some really cool people, not just you, but some other cool people. So that was good.
We have a great group. Yeah,
All right.
Come back and see us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nick, if you want to give a quick plug where you guys meet and when you meet, go ahead.
Yeah, so our BNI meeting we actually meet virtually 3 weeks out of the month, so on Zoom. So it's pretty easy for anybody to join. And then just a quick BNI plug, it's business owners from kind of every different industry. And then we meet once a month in person. So you can find us online, BNI, Pearland, Business Referral Partners of Pearland.
Business Referral Partners of Pearland, the BRPP group. You guys are amazing. All right. So Nick, let's talk about you. Tell us what you do and why you have such a passion for what you do.
So I work in wealth management. I'm a financial planner. Really, I got into that because I just really enjoy people. I enjoy talking to people, learning about their story, and ultimately just helping people. Most of that comes from my parents. My dad was an accounting professor growing up. So we talked pretty openly about money, and I didn't realize until I became an adult how valuable that is. and then being able to turn around and use that to help other people has been really a great way for me to integrate just how much I enjoy people, and then something that's really valuable in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And where are all my Aggie fans out there? We've got an Aggie on with us today. Yes, sir. So, Nick, you were just telling me before we started the show today that you're doing a podcast for the Houston A&M Club. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been pretty involved with volunteering in the Houston A&M Club really since I moved to Houston after I graduated A&M. I wanted to stay connected in my Aggie network, and it's just the school's given so much to me. I wanted to be able to give a little bit back. But what I realized was, and let me back up a second, I've been the chair of what we call Traditions Lunch. So we do a monthly alumni lunch here in town, and it really just kind of provides everybody a chance to gather and network. And we bring in a speaker. We've had a wide range of array of speakers, from Rick Perry all the way down to the CEO of ExxonMobil. So that's really cool. But what I noticed was, I'm going to this every month, and I'm meeting and hanging out with these guys and girls that are class of 65 and 52, and we even have a couple of 1947. And what I realized was I'm really enjoying these relationships, but as life happens, they start to pass away, and I'm going to these funerals, and as a younger guy, relative, I'm like so grateful for the relationships and learning a lot of these stories. But what I realize is that we're not capturing a lot of these really just neat stories. I mean, some of these guys served in World War II, which is the ultimate selfless service, right? And we wanted to create a time capsule. So that's really what the podcast was, is I wanted to capture a lot of these stories so that we could have them forever, even when they do, eventually pass away. Because I would go to these funerals and I would tell the families, it's just such an honor to be friends with your, dad, your grandpa, whatever. And I kind of look around, I'm like the only young person, outside of, immediate family. And it dawned on me that it would be really beneficial to start capturing a lot of these or some of these stories so that we can have them later on. So yeah, it's a Houston A&M Club podcast. So I think we're going to launch the first 4 episodes in the beginning of 2024. So thanks for the plug. Really appreciate that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And will it be public facing so we can go out and find it and listen to it? That is awesome. As you were talking, and you and I had the opportunity to spend a few minutes together a few weeks back, we continue to have connections. You were talking about the Houston A&M Club and Sherry Ferguson. I don't know if you even know her, but she's a very good friend of mine, and I'm pretty sure she's part of the A&M Club. She founded Faithful Friends Animal Assisted Therapy here in the Clear Lake area, whom I have volunteered with for years and years, doing animal assisted therapy in nursing homes and Reading with Rover programs. So it's pretty exciting to meet another Aggie that's doing so much great work in the community. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to have you on the show is Aaron Hunt shared with me that you're part of a program called PEP, or Prison Entrepreneur Program. And I wanted to know more about it. And I think our listeners should learn more about it. And I think it has a lot to do with your love for helping people or teaching people about money and being able to bring that into the prison system. So tell me about this program and how you, Nick, are volunteering in that space and how it's even affecting you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share this with you, and thanks for bringing it up. If I get long-winded, I apologize. There's just so many aspects of this program that I really love, and I have to give a quick shout out to my friend Charles Blaine. He's the president and founder of Urban Reform. He's the one that got me into this. He's been bugging me for years. Like, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. I'm like, I'll get to it eventually, and because you have to give up, a good amount of your Friday, because what happens is this is a program that they run in the state prisons in Texas. And what they do is Baylor actually has a certificate in entrepreneurship. And so a lot of these inmates apply to be in this program. So they're picking kind of the best of the best, people that want to reform their life and really make a change. And let me back up just 1 or 2 steps. I grew up in Huntsville, Texas. There's 11 prisons, or probably more now. Hadn't really spent much time thinking about it or doing anything about it. But what I realized in getting more involved in this program is, there's a lot of people in prison. It's kind of a forgotten population, right? And it's become a very for-profit enterprise, or it's kind of the easy way to deal with problems that we have with society. Is just put people in prison and let's just forget about it. Well, recidivism is a really large problem with that. Is it What that means is people get out of prison and they just go right back to prison, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of prison, because you're supposed to, you do the crime, you pay the time, and you rehabilitate yourself and hopefully do better, right? And so this program was started to really help with that. And what they do is, through this entrepreneurship program, they pick these guys. They have to apply from really all over the state, and they whittle it down to plus or minus 100, 150 guys. And they're at the Cleveland unit out in Cleveland, Texas. And then what we do as executive volunteers is we go out there and spend most of the day with them for different events. The main one is they have a business pitch day. So these guys, the whole program is that they are designing, building, and planning a business for when they get out of prison that they can start, right? And the idea is this gives somebody purpose and meaning and hopefully structure. And the program is great. It does do a lot of that. And skipping ahead a little bit, they've had quite a few businesses come out of prison that have been just wildly, wildly successful from these guys. But it's really cool because as a volunteer, you go in and it's like Shark Tank, right? So you sit there, you're an executive volunteer, and they pitch you the business live, and you hear all kinds of different pitches, food trucks, apparel, power washing, construction companies, anything you can think of. These guys have thought of it. And then we get to give them business advice and feedback from our own business experience. And it's really great. And the biggest thing that I enjoy about it is, it's kind of hard not to leave prison with a perspective that I find just super healthy, which is I'm very grateful for a lot of the things that have gone really well for me in my life. And I know that my mom would always say this, but for the grace of God, there go I, right? We kind of think the more success you have, the more that bias kind of fills your mind of I deserve this and that. And it's really not true, right? It's, I'm one mistake, I'm one accident away from, my life being completely different, and really meeting people at that level for me is just such a healthy mental thing. I get a huge kick out of it. I get kind of a spiritual high, if we're being honest. And then the really neat part of the program is it's not just a one and done. It's really structured to help these guys kind of throughout their life. And once they get out of prison, they have, halfway houses that involve getting back on their feet and starting that business and helping them find work if they're not going to start that business. And it's just really, really a neat program. And then the last thing I'll say, because I said I had a lot to say about this, but it's just such a special deal, is I've met just some of the most wonderful people that are also volunteers, inmates and participants as well, certainly. But you kind of look to your left and your right, and you're like, well, that's the in-house counsel for ExxonMobil, or this guy went to Yale, and you kind of feel a little bit undeserving to be around volunteers like that. But in the same sense, it's just really neat for me because I'm seeing these guys that are relatively super successful. They're here volunteering as well. I know they get a huge kick out of it too. It's cool to see that and be a part of that, and I really enjoy it. And just the whole program in general, I can't say enough good things. It's really well done.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing your own experience and how it even humbles you or moves you to be able to do this volunteer work. If someone were interested, any of our listeners were interested in being a part of that program, is there a place or a way that they might get involved, Nick?
Absolutely. So if you just Google PEP, Prison Entrepreneurship Program, it'll pop right up. And they have numerous ways to get involved, fill out, there's an online form, email, contact. Also, I'll throw this out there. more than welcome to get in touch with me, and I'll put you directly in touch with who you need to be in touch with. We always tell people, it sounds weird going to prison, but just go. Just come with no expectations, and I think you'll be blown away. So if it's something you're interested in, add me on LinkedIn. Certainly shoot me an email, call, text anytime. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet, but we'd love to have you if you have business experience, or if you
Yeah,
just want to love on
fantastic.
people.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Nick. So if people do want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Definitely. Yeah. So my email is typically the fastest way to get a hold of me. It's just Nick, Nick Baker, at IMG Financial Group. So it's Igloo March Golf Financialgroup.com. So if you Google Nick Baker IMG, it'll pop up as well.
Yeah, you're doing such amazing work in this service that you're giving back to the community, but also in the business that you're in. We started our talk today with you have such a passion for getting out there and spreading this information to young people, middle-aged people, old people who may not necessarily have had this same relationship with money and the discussion or the conversation around money that you had growing up. So I appreciate the work that you're doing in this financial space in wealth management because it's important. So many of us are afraid to have those conversations inside of our families or with our families.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So, Nick, I warned you that I've been doing a lot of work in the trust leadership space over the last this year, and I plan to continue that work into 2024 because I think it's really important that we understand where trust comes from and the things that we should be doing to create that trust. And I believe it's essential for the success and sustainability of any organization, whether it's a profit or a nonprofit or not for profit organization. The trust among our communities and individuals uh, that we serve is fundamental, whether they're paying for a service from us or not. And it ensures that our organization's efforts are seen as genuine and beneficial to the intended recipients. That trust is so important. And for you being in the financial space or in wealth management, that's huge in your own business, but also in the volunteer work that you're doing, having these conversations on a podcast with people who are telling their stories or going into the prison systems and talking to these gentlemen who want to open a business when they leave the system. There's so much trust that needs to be gained there between you and that other person. So here's my closing question for you. What do you believe are the key strategies and or practical steps leaders can take to foster a culture of trust within their organization?
Gosh, it's such a great question. Thank you for the question. And I want to preface this by saying, I don't consider myself, and I've really been working on this transparency, and I don't want to, have false humility, but I do really want to be humble. I don't consider myself, wildly successful by any measure, and I fail at this plenty. And because I fail, I think I've learned so much. But I want to give a lot of credit to my parents, especially my mom. And then also going to A&M, I think Texas A&M really fosters a lot of these attributes as well. But to your point, I work in a trust business. I always joke with my colleagues or friends that like no one hires us to manage their money because we're the smartest guys or we're the best dressed or we're the funniest. That's just not why people hire us. They hire us because they trust us to do the right thing when they're not looking and on their behalf. And that's really just, 99.9% of it. I think of trust like a workout. I think it's built day by day, rep by rep, brick by brick, and I think that the most important thing is that you're either advancing the ball or you're not. You're going backwards. There's really no neutral with trust. And I think it's super important, like I just said, we all fail at this at anything routinely, it's very important that you have the self-awareness to correct that as quickly as you possibly can, and to apologize, right? And I think that's something I've realized is that if you have two transparent people who really want to do what's best, you can quickly move on from things and you can build that trust. But in general, I think that in terms of fostering a culture of trust within the organization, I think that most organizations that are wildly successful, there is an extremely high level of trust from the top to the bottom. Right? Because if you think about it, it's just extremely difficult to function and operate on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis when the trust is so low, right? And so I think that you have to be extremely intentional and transparent about what you're doing to build that trust. Again, think I'm very fortunate. I've always worked in places, the firm I'm at now and have been at for a while. The CEO, shout out to Jeff Applebaum. He does a very good job of this and really works at it and checking in on your people, right? And getting them to give you transparent, candid feedback. That's something that in thinking about this discussion, I wanted to really throw out there is that you've got to find a way to put people around you that will tell you the hard truth, right? Everybody wants to make you feel good and tell you nice things or whatever, but part of building trust is having people that can tell you, you messed that up, or that's not really the right way to go about that. And we all get a little defensive, and that's part of it, but part of building trust is, hey, I feel like I can tell you the truth, right? And in any organization, speaking the truth is just so incredibly important, in my opinion, because otherwise you're just building everything on a house of cards. And eventually, I think we both know how that story ends with low trust, ends in a lot of tears and disappointment and hurt feelings. And, usually people move on. But the more you can foster trust, the longer you're going to make that runway of success potentially for whatever endeavor that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that house of cards becomes a table of just flat cards laying there, right? Not serving anything. It's interesting. So for those of you who are only listening today and not watching on the YouTube channel, I wrote on my whiteboard, you all know that I do that every day. I wrote character plus compassion plus consistency equals trust. And that, my friend Nick, is the embodiment of you. As you were talking through that in a conversation that we've had today, you have such high character and compassion for people, and you're very consistent in the work that you do. And I think it's lovely that you're on my board, and we didn't know that this morning when I wrote it. So,
well, I'm working on the consistency part. I'll be fully transparent. It's something I work on every day. Just, the life comes at you hard and the ups and downs. And so being consistent is my biggest struggle, but that formula is perfect. I think that's just perfectly accurate.
We just keep working on it. We keep working on it. Nick, thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for all of the work that you're doing in our community and serving others. And I appreciate you being here today.
No, thanks for having me.
And that concludes this week's podcast, Serving the Community. Thanks so much for listening today. There are so many great things about our modern world, but the people in it should be at the top of that list. Taking a genuine interest in your family, friends, neighbors, and even strangers is one of the most rewarding decisions you can make for yourself and those around you that you choose to serve. If you enjoyed this episode of Serving the Community, be sure to subscribe so that you're notified when a new episode is posted. Please rate and review this episode and be sure to share with your connections. You can also find out more about what I'm up to at trishastetzel.com.